Monday?
It has to be mailed by Monday.
Which Monday?
Like the next Monday after today.
If you all agree and approve these resolutions and form of notices, the mailing will take place today.
Well, the chart, you were still working on that chart 7?
The chart 7 is consistent with what you saw in your methodology here today, and Gary has that.
Move approval of the form, letter form.
Well, before you do that, what's a strap number?
It's like it's a number that the county assigns, like a parcel ID number that they use for tracking purposes of your particular parcel.
Okay. So there's no opportunity to get any changes into this notice?
I would say it would be very, very difficult to do that at this point in time. If there's something that you're concerned with, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
No, no, I was contemplating some changes to it, but they were not very, it was for, put more in residentese rather than the official language.
I understand, and I think that if you provide those concerns to me, that perhaps when we post the chart on the website, we can address some of those issues.
Okay, all right.
Well, I'll second the motion.
The motion is to approve this in substantial form.
Approve both notices in substantial form and authorize staff to go ahead and issue them.
A motion to approve, have a second.
A second.
All in favor?
I made the motion,
Oh, you did?
and Dick seconded. You weren't listening.
I wasn't. I thought I interrupted the motion, but that's okay.
Thanks for sharing.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
So next we would go to that motion included both the mail and the published notices. I just want the record to reflect that. And then we go to the Poinciana West Board. Again, you have your first resolution, which is 2016-07, declaring assessments. That resolution attaches the engineer's report and as well as the preliminary master assessment methodology. It just kicks off the assessment process. It doesn't levy any liens, but it lets people know that you're starting that process.
Any discussion on the resolution?
I move to approve the resolution.
Okay, your second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
And the next one is Resolution 2017-07, setting a public hearing on assessments. We're setting that for the same date and time, March 15th of 2017. We ask for the board to approve Resolution 2017-07.
We have a motion to approve 2017-07.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Then the next item would be approving the form of the mail notice and the published notice. We could do that in one motion if you'd like. And again, I'd be glad to answer any questions, but it's a very similar notice than to what the points you just approved.
Your motion.
Make the motion to accept. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Okay. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, supervisor comments. Supervisor, anything should bring up?
One thing I'd like to say, I guess, without directly answering questions from the audience, I know everybody's been on about the second appraisal and everything. My gut feeling is that I think AB Homes is even on the fence now with what the rates are going, and if we tried to negotiate lower, which is obviously a good deal for us, we wouldn't get it. I think we would be stuck with the system we have, and somebody eventually would buy it, and we'd be in left field, we'd have no say, and we definitely wouldn't get the amenities. So my big thing is I think we need the amenities, and that's why I'm for it, and I'm moving along with the original BFG numbers. Thank you.
Any comments? No? So being none, moving on to the next item on the agenda, which would be audience comments.
I have a couple of questions for council. I would appreciate getting your opinion on it. Number one, we have an opposition group trying to oppose what we're doing. And my estimate is this represents possibly 7 to 10% of the homes in Solivita. When we go to this validation and they're there with their opposition, would it not be prudent for us to have some kind of polling of the residents to support the actions that the board has taken and the path that we're taking? Is that not possible to do so?
Members of the board, the boards can direct anybody to do a survey at any time that they want to. I will remind the board that this is a representative democracy and that you all sit here and ultimately you are the decision makers on this process. It is not a matter that requires a referendum. So certainly, again, you have the authority if you want to or not want to. I will tell you that time is running short before the March 21st hearing. Time is running short before our March 15th assessment hearing, which is why Gary's hadn't been on his toes in terms of these notices. So that's a business decision for the board.
Well, my reasoning for asking for this is because I think we would get overwhelming support of the community for the actions that the board is taking. And I don't know whether that would make any difference in the challenges that are being made to the validation. Maybe they're all legal challenges and that the judge will not take into consideration what percent of the community this group represents.
No, I appreciate the comment. I will tell you that a judge's role in validation is extremely limited, and it's not really meant to second guess the decision of the board or anything like that. So if we went through that, the judge could very easily say, we have no interest in looking at that. That's not really the legal issue that I'm here to decide. So, I mean, it's a good thought, but I don't necessarily know that it'd be compelling to a judge.
One other comment that I'd like to make, it's been brought to my attention that there is one of the Board of Supervisors that has been discussing the sale of the amenities in a public forum, like giving a speech. And this sounds to me like that this is in violation of the Sunshine Law. And I'm just wondering if that is the case, then are there actions that could and should be taken?
I've not been in any of those meetings. I can't really comment on that. I don't know what was said or who was there.
So there won't be any action taken to investigate or do anything about this particular situation?
In terms of if the board has questions that the board wants to discuss, they certainly can. My role is to counsel board members in terms of how to comply with the Sunshine Law, but beyond that, there's nothing that I've been charged to do in terms of any kind of investigation.
Thank you.
Sean Thornton, 165 Mile Road. I just want to pick up a comment that the gentleman made a few minutes ago. I'm going to read from what I wrote to you yesterday. It won't take long. I have asked you to confirm the name of the CPA firm that has been used as an advisor, and in particular, that you provide a copy of the due diligence questions that the CPA prepared. In the absence of any reply, I must assume that you have not used the services of the CPA for the purposes of due diligence. Equally, I have asked you to agree to have a professional MAI appraisal of the facilities undertaken. In the absence of any reply, I must assume that you are not willing to agree to this request. If that is the case, then I must ask you to reconsider and to immediately engage adequately educated and experienced professional advisors to undertake these vitally important tasks on your behalf and on behalf of the residents of Solivita. I I'm asking you whether you are satisfying your obligations as fiduciaries by not undertaking those tasks. Thank you.
Patricia Schmidt, 772 San Rafael Street. And may I just say before I start, I want to commend everybody for their service. I truly appreciate it. I know it's extremely time consuming and it is a task that I would not want to take on personally. Council and all of the other professional representatives also. But I have a couple questions that came up during today's meeting only. The first one being that I wasn't crazy about the way a motion was made. And, you know, being on an officer in various clubs and organizations, we do follow Robert's Rules of Order to some degree in a loose form. Nonetheless, there was a motion made to, regarding the $250,000 in litigation fees, additional litigation fees. Why doesn't the person making the motion actually create a motion instead of saying, I make a motion to do that? Do what? That's my first comment, and it really did not sit well with me, because this is a serious thing, and for them to kind of snicker a little bit, which was done this morning, I don't think it's right. I don't think it's fair to the developer. I don't think it's fair to the board, the CCD board, and I don't think it's fair to the residents in Solivita. Second thing is, and no disrespect to Mr. Lane, but he served on this board in an appointed position, I believe. He ran for election against another person who was sitting on the board, and then there was a vacancy. When did that vacancy occur? And if it occurred after the election, then my question is moot. If it was there prior to, then why wasn't there a seat put up available for election in November? My third question is, and I don't know if you're going to answer anything, but there was a motion made regarding the $250,000 that needed a motion from the CDD, but a motion was not needed by the PWCDD. Why is that?
Members of the board, I can address two of those comments if you want. And again, I'm going to address them to the board because I don't know if you're represented by council, if you're part of a group that's
Of
suing.
course I'm not. I'm a homeowner and I pay my taxes and I pay my dues. That's where I end it. And my concerns for this transaction.
And I appreciate that, thank you. Two items that were raised. One is, why wasn't the vacancy put on the November ballot? You're not allowed to by law. That seat has to be filled by the existing members for the purpose of, for the remainder of the term, and that term ends in November of 18. So there was no legal ability for this board to put that seat on the ballot. That would be the first thing. The second, that was the last question you asked me. See, this is why I do one at a time sometimes. The last question was?
It pertained to the $250 additional expenses in
yes.
litigation, and the CDD had to make a motion on it, and yet the PWCDD did not. And my concern is, if the expense, if it is not approved and the builder doesn't pick up those expenses, it has to be a special assessment to the homeowners. Is that only the homeowners in the CDD or the homeowners in the CDD and PWCDD? And if it is both, then why wasn't there a motion required on the part of the PWCDD?
An excellent question. And I think the reason why is because the funding agreement is with the Poinciana CDD. It is because the Poinciana CDD is the one that will have to deal with that at the end of the day. I don't think Poinciana West is a party to that funding agreement. Our goal is to make sure that everything we do is funded under that funding agreement so that we don't ever have that situation where we have to look back on the assessments. But you raise an interesting point, and I'll look at the structure of the document to make sure that that we're covered there. Because I do think that, you know, there's no intent for anybody on the board to be unfair to any resident regardless of where they live. So we'll look at that, but I think technically the funding agreement was just with the Poinciana CDD.
If I could say something to that.
Sure, John.
It might be worthy. It seems very confusing to an awful lot of people how this is working. All right. And in order to make this deal progress, we had to, as a Point Siena West board, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, okay? We had to prepare an interlocal agreement, okay? Because then the Point Siena board, the main board, would have the responsibility for financial issues, and they voted on this. And with our consent, I have to say that Chairman Zavardi has been very careful to be sure that our opinions are heard, and we appreciate it. So the interlocal agreement was a key factor, but in the end, the key function of the West Board, where we can really play a significant role here is from a financial perspective. We can't go over the numbers that we agreed to originally, and in order, that was the fundamental issue in that, so that according to legal counsel, it's the only way we can proceed. It's pretty convoluted right now. There's two boards, okay? And it looks like they can't act totally independently until they get to the Point Siena West or Point Siena Board functionality and responsibilities. So it's confusing for the public. And it's been advertised, it's been talked about, this interlocal agreement, and that's really the fundamental point of it, I believe. Am I correct if I'm wrong?
No, you're correct, because our choices in the beginning when we started looking at this issue is you could have Point Siena West, which owns the amenities within Point Siena West, and Point Siena, which owns the amenities within Point Siena. And that wasn't fair, because that's not how the amenities are used today. And so therefore, it made more sense to have one entity own the amenities, and the other entity have an interlocal agreement with them that gives them all the rights that Point Siena residents have for those amenities, and then they will fund their share of both the debt assessments and the O&M assessments, and that's covered by the interlocal agreement. So really the reason why we have this structure, which appears a little bit disjointed, is because we wanted to keep the amenities open to the people that it's open to right now, and have very little change in how that operates. So that's kind of how we got to a little bit more complicated structure.
I appreciate that because I think it gives a better understanding to me personally. I don't know about anyone else. With all due respect to you, Mr. Eckert, when you went to Article Roman numeral 4A, consideration of Resolution 2017-06 declaring assessments, I heard you say 2017-07. No one corrected you on that, and yet it was approved. It's just a minor little thing, but you should say 2017-07, and then you went on further to say also consideration of Resolution 2017-07, setting the public hearing. So you made a mistake. I'm just bringing it to your attention in case, legally speaking, it has any ramifications. My final thing is, and maybe others care, maybe they don't, but last month at the meeting, or earlier this month, whenever the last meeting was, something was brought up in a bit of detail regarding those 3 homes, properties, residences, that do not pay assessments and club dues. And again, today it was quickly referenced. My question is, at any point, are they going to be charged these fees going forward, or will they be retroactive? Will they be just concurrent, or what?
I never said, and I don't think anybody ever said those 3 homes don't pay club dues.
Okay, then I stand corrected.
Okay. There are 3 homes that are within Phase 6 of the project. Phase 6 was added to the Point Siena CDD in 2006, I believe. And in order to add land to a community development district, you have to have 100% consent of the landowners being added. When we went through that process, there were 3 homes who either refused to provide consent to be added to the CDD, or they were unable to be located who the owners were. And so the governor and cabinet approved the boundary amendment adding Phase 6, but excluding those 3 because there was no consent for them to be added. As we move forward with this, those 3, as I understand it, have been paying club dues and using the amenities. As we move forward and the district owns the amenities, those 3 units, because they're technically not in the district, would have to pay an annual user fee to be able to use those facilities moving forward.
I see. Okay, I appreciate the explanation. Thank you very much.
just want a little clarification from the last speaker. On the subordinate bond, the $50,000, is that going to be assessed against only one CDB district?
In terms of the $50,000, we'd have to look at how that was accounted for. That subordinate bond holder is the Poinciana bond holder. However,
So the Poinciana bond order, and to clarify, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to know what we're talking about. Is that like Venezia and Belgiana?
it's a bond holder who has bonds that are secured by assessment liens that are spread over all of Poinciana CDD. But in
The bonds are
order,
against all,
all of Poinciana CDD, that's
but
correct.
you say it's represented against maybe just Poinciana, not Poinciana West?
The bond holder owns bonds that are secured by assessments over the Poinciana CDD, not the Poinciana West CDD. In order for this transaction to move forward at all, you would have to have consent from the subordinate bond holders of Poinciana, because that's what the 2012 Master Trust Indenture says. And if the Poinciana West Board also had a subordinate bond holder with that same provision in the indenture, they too would have to consent. However, because we were working through this issue and Poinciana West was refinancing its bonds at the same time, we were able to negotiate that provision out of their trust indenture. So that's why Poinciana West doesn't have the same issue to deal with.
So the $50,000 that we would pay to those subordinate bond holders, again, would it be assessed against only Poinciana West? Or not Poinciana West, excuse me, only Poinciana?
I'd have to look at the flow of funds that was prepared by the underwriter. It's
In other
certainly-
words, it may not be all of the homes?
I think that I believe that it's all of the homeowners because it's something that's necessary to do the transaction. You can't do the transaction without,
Well, what did we vote on then, if we don't know? What did we vote on, at both boards, what did we vote on if we don't know who's going to be assessed against?
you voted on what your maximum assessment caps are, and there is the ability to work through those types of issues over the next 30 days between now and March 15th, because the board hasn't made any final decisions on what the assessment levels are going to be. They've only set caps for purposes of providing you notice.
Yeah, that's good. I guess now I'm asking the board members, both Poinciana West and Poinciana, do you know what you voted on? Did you vote against assessments only on Poinciana? Or did you vote on assessments against both?
I have a question on that. Wouldn't that 50,000 be part of the bond proceeds, something that we pay off the town bonds?
Yes, it's money.
It's not going to be assessed against the homeowners. It's going to be part of the bond proceeds.
So that would be the entire.
Bond
debt.
proceeds are going to be, yeah. everyone.
The bond proceeds are going to pay for it. It's not going to be a special assessment. You're correct.
That's my question. It's not like a subordinate bond that would be only against one district. I just wanted to clarify on that. So thank you.
It's going to be paid out of bond proceeds.
Thanks much.
Anita Nelson again, 567 Shore Haven. I was at a meeting back in the spring when it was discussed combining the both boards. And I, for the life of me, cannot remember why it has not been done, and I was wondering if you guys could give an explanation to the audience as to that.
That was brought up by these boards. Both. Yeah, you hear me out there? Okay. That was brought up by both these boards some while ago, probably a year ago. Right? And at that point, that's why these vacancies have been held out so long, attempting to make that happen. The Poinciana West Board has negotiated with their members and worked that out, whereby two of our members have agreed to stand aside, and that's Mr. Brown and Mr. Rosenberg. They said that only elected members could participate in the consolidated board. And again, that's why we held out this, replacing the board member that's missing. And I think since then, there's been a lot of dialogue on the Poinciana board, and then they want to speak to it. about trying to get to that conclusion. It's not easy, but we all believed at that point in time there's an agreement, a merger agreement that exists. And I think when the Poinciana board, as I said, they might want to speak to that, when they come to that conclusion, that the 3 members that would remain on their board as part of the consolidated board, and then it would be kind of worked out. It's not an easy decision, really isn't, but there's a substantial savings to the residents should we merge these 2 boards. And I think we've all been for it, it's just how do you get there? So that's our opinion from the west side.
And that's basically my question. I haven't heard it discussed since those meetings that I was at, and I heard you all discussing it, and I thought it was a great idea. Why hasn't that been pursued, and why haven't we been able to accomplish that?
If I could, I wrote the merger agreement that's out there, and the one remaining issue is just simply, there has to be either one of 2 things. Seats open up on the Poinciana board. Mr. Lane graciously agreed when he took the appointment for the remainder of this term that he would submit a resignation that would be held in escrow and would become effective upon a merger. And so his seat is available for somebody from Poinciana West to fill, if in fact we have a merger. And then we have another seat that is, that Poinciana West has asked for on the board, so that they would have 2 seats, and the existing Poinciana members would have 3. That hasn't occurred yet. I mean, we're kind of in the middle of a pretty big amenity transaction right now, and for people to be throwing resignations in and stuff, I think is uncomfortable, is what I've been hearing. The other alternative is to do a merger where Poinciana West would only have 1 seat, but they feel that that's not appropriate representation. I will say that there's a logistical issue that's still out there, and that is that a merger takes about a year to do. And so unless there's some sort of an agreement that's reached before May, and I don't think there will be, because I think we're all focused on the amenities transaction, making sure we understand that, nobody will be able to qualify for a merged board anyway, because the qualification period is in June of 2018 for the November 2018 election. So I think it's unlikely that you'll see the merger agreement be approved until we get through the amenity transaction and everybody can take a deep breath and say, okay, now how do we look at this merger agreement again?
Thank you. But my real question is why did we not pursue that first before we went through all the purchase of the CBD? Because it takes a year?
No, because we don't have an agreement among the boards in terms of who will make up the new board.
And that's the only reason. I mean, there's nothing from the state that's holding it up or anything like that.
Well, that's what holds us up from asking the state to do it, and once you ask the state to do it, it takes about a year.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good question.
Are there any other comments? Okay, there being none, we'll move on to the last item on our agenda, which is adjournment. Poinciana CDD, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Don't be shy.
Second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Hey, the Poinciana West CDD, motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. We're going to take a 10-minute recess before the next Poinciana West regular meeting takes place.